The vast emptiness of space surrounded the Mizar system, home to the Kalari people. Once, they had built great cities across 3 planets. Their ships had traveled between worlds, carrying goods and families. Children had looked up at the stars with wonder, not fear. Those days were gone. For nearly 30 years, the Kalari had known only terror. It came without warning, without pattern. The ships that the Kalari called Void Hunters. Black vessels that moved like living things, their hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. On the 3rd planet of the Mizar system, Vel watched the night sky from the small window of the underground shelter. At 52, half his life had been spent in fear. He remembered the time before, when he had been a pilot, carrying goods between the colonies. Now, no one flew unless they had to. To fly was to risk being seen. "You should not stand so close to the window," said his daughter, Ren. At 26, she had never known a world without hunters. "The light might reflect off your face." Vel stepped back. She was right, of course. The smallest mistakes could bring death. Any word from Colony 2? Ren shook her head. Their signal stopped 3 days ago. They both knew what that meant. The hunters had come again. Another settlement gone. More Kalari taken for whatever horrible purpose the hunters had. No one taken had ever returned. In the command center beneath the main shelter, Elder Nix studied the reports from the few remaining observation posts. The old leader's face was lined with years of hard decisions. Who would fly the dangerous supply missions? Which settlements to evacuate when signs of hunters appeared? Which distress calls to answer and which were too risky? Elder called Tav, the young operator at the long-range sensors. "I have something." Nix moved to the screen, where a single blip appeared at the edge of their detection range. "Hunter?" asked Nix, though it didn't match their usual approach patterns. "I don't think so," Tav replied, adjusting the settings. "It's smaller, and it's broadcasting." This was new. Hunters never broadcast. They came in silence, took what they wanted, and left. "Can you clean up the signal?" Nix asked. Tav worked quickly, fingers moving across the control panel. It's a message, in a language I don't know." The speakers crackled to life, filling the room with strange sounds. Words, clearly, but not Kalari words. "Alert the defense teams," Nix ordered. "But tell them to hold position until we know more." As the unknown ship drew closer, the sensors gave them more information. It was indeed smaller than a hunter vessel, with a different energy signature. Its design was angular, built rather than grown like the organic-looking hunter ships. "It's slowing," Tav reported, matching orbit with Colony Prime. For 3 tense hours, the ship held position. The strange message repeated every 10 minutes. Kalari scientists worked to understand it, comparing it to old language databases from before the hunters came. "We think it's offering help," said the lead scientist finally. "It keeps using the same pattern that might mean friend or ally." Nix looked at the grainy image of the ship on the main screen. To trust was dangerous. Too many had died because of trust. But to refuse help when the Kalari were slowly dying. Send a simple response, Nix decided. "Tell them we are listening." The reply came almost instantly, this time with visual data. On the screen appeared a face unlike any Kalari had seen before. No scales, strange fur on top of its head, soft-looking skin. The creature spoke again, and this time a rough translation followed. "People of Mizar, we are the crew of the CSS Vigilant. We have come to help." Hope, forgotten for decades, flickered dangerously back to life in Nix's heart. Captain Thomas Reeves stood on the bridge of the CSS Vigilant, his hands clasped behind his back. Through the main viewport, the blue-green world of the Kalari's home planet filled his view. It was beautiful and wounded. Even from orbit, he could see the scars where once great cities had been reduced to ruins. "Sir, we have a response from the surface," said Officer Davis from the communication station. "They're willing to talk." Reed nodded. "Prepare the shuttle. I'll meet them myself." "Captain, First Officer Ward stepped forward, her face showing concern. Command protocol states that the captain should not lead first contact missions, especially in potentially hostile territory. Reed turned to her with a slight smile. Ward, we're already breaking about 15 protocols just by being here. What's one more? The truth hung unspoken between them. The Vigilant had come alone, against orders. High Command had dismissed Reed's evidence about the creatures attacking the system as inconclusive. But Reed had seen the patterns, the same energy signatures, the same attack methods that had destroyed the research outpost at Proxima 3, where he had lost his brother. Prepare the shuttle, he repeated, and arm the ship's main weapons. If I'm not back in 3 hours, you know what to do. The shuttle bay was small, designed for a warship that wasn't meant to make social calls. As Reed climbed into the tiny craft, he checked his sidearm. A precaution, not a plan. If the Kalari wanted him dead, one gun wouldn't save him. The descent to the surface was smooth. Reed guided the shuttle toward the coordinates the Kalari had provided, a flat area outside what once might have been a city. Now it was a mix of ruins and underground bunkers. As the shuttle touched down, Reed saw figures emerging from hidden entrances in the ground. They moved cautiously, weapons ready but not aimed directly at his craft. Smart, he thought. Trust, but verify. The Kalari were not what he had expected. Standing about as tall as humans, their skin had a slight blue tint and a pattern of small scales across their foreheads and down their necks. Their eyes were large, adapted for the dimmer light of their sun. Reed stepped out alone, hands visible, no helmet, a gesture of trust. One Kalari stepped forward, older than the others judging by the faded color of their scales. I am Elder Nix. Why has your ship come to our system? Reed kept his voice steady. I am Captain Thomas Reed of the CSS Vigilant. We've been tracking the creatures that have been attacking your people. We call them the Scourge. A murmur ran through the gathered Kalari. Nick's expression didn't change. We call them Void Hunters. They have plagued us for 30 years. Why would humans care about our suffering? Because you're not the first, Reed answered. And if we don't stop them, you won't be the last. Reed removed a small device from his pocket and placed it on the ground between them. It projected a holographic map of this sector of space, with 17 points marked in red. Each red mark is a world that has been hit by the Scourge. Most had no survivors to tell what happened. The Kalari looked at the map, their expressions darkening as they understood the scale of destruction. How did you find us? Asked Nix. No one has answered our calls for help in years. Reed's face hardened slightly. We found a damaged Scourge ship drifting near the edge of your system. We examined it, found coordinates, followed them here. Nix's eyes narrowed. You destroyed one of them. Yes, Reed said simply. For the first time, Nix's stern expression broke, showing something like hope, or perhaps disbelief. Then perhaps, the elder said, we should talk further. Behind them, a younger Kalari rushed forward, speaking rapidly to Nix. The elder's face changed. Captain Reed, Nix said urgently, our sensors have detected movement from the fourth planet. A hunter ship has awakened. It comes this way. Reed touched his communicator. Vigilant, battle stations. They know we're here. The ground shook as the Kalari rushed Reed and his team into their underground shelter. Warning sirens blared across the settlement, a sound the Kalari knew too well. Children were hurried deeper into the bunkers by adults with grim, practiced movements. How long do we have? Reed asked as they descended a narrow stairwell. Minutes, perhaps, Nix replied. The hunters move quickly once they wake. The command center was a marvel of desperation and ingenuity. Salvaged screens and cobbled-together equipment lined the walls. Maps showed the remaining Kalari settlements across their 3 planets, far fewer than there should have been for a spacefaring civilization. Reed touched his communicator. Ward, status report. Scourge vessel approaching from the 4th planet. Sir, came the response. It's massive. at least 3 times our size. Move the Vigilant into position between it and the settlement, Reed ordered, but hold fire until I give the command. Sir, with respect, you should return to the ship, Ward insisted. Negative. I need to see how these people have survived this long. Reed turned to Nix. What happens now? What do the hunters do when they come? Nix gestured to a young technician who brought up grainy footage on the main screen. The video showed a black ship, its surface seeming to ripple like liquid despite its enormous size. It descended through atmosphere with impossible grace. They land. They send out smaller things. We call them gatherers. They take people. Nix's voice was flat, emotionless, the trauma buried deep. Not all. Some. They seem to choose. We have never understood why some are taken and others left. Reed studied the footage carefully. How many people have they taken over the years? Thousands, another Kaluri answered. Maybe tens of thousands. We stopped counting after the first decade. On the screens above them, a new alert flashed. The hunter ship had entered the atmosphere. Everyone to the deep shelter, Nix ordered. The command center quickly emptied, leaving only Nix, Reed, and a few essential personnel. You should go too, Reed told Nix. I need to observe, but this is your people's survival at stake. Nix shook his head. I stay until all others are safe. That is my duty. Reed nodded, understanding the burden of leadership. My ship is going to engage the hunter. It might be dangerous to be on the surface. Nix almost smiled. Danger has been our constant companion for 30 years, Captain. Through the monitors, they watched as the hunter ship descended toward the settlement. It was beautiful in its terrible way, its black surface absorbing light like a hole in reality itself. Then, suddenly, it stopped. What's happening? Reed asked, leaning forward. I don't know, Nix admitted, confusion in his voice. They'd never hesitate. In the sky above, the CSS Vigilant had positioned itself directly in the hunter's path, weapons systems hot, but not yet firing. The hunter ship hung motionless for several long seconds. Then, without warning, it changed course, moving away from the settlement and directly toward the Vigilant. It's interested in your ship, Nix said, surprise evident in his voice. Reed's communicator chirped. Captain, the Scourge vessel is hailing us, Ward reported, her voice tight with tension. It's sending a signal unlike anything we've recorded from them before. Can you decode it? Reed asked. Working on it, sir, but... Ward hesitated. Sir, I think they're trying to communicate. Reed exchanged looks with Nix. In 30 years of attacks, the hunters had never once attempted communication with the Kalari. Put it through, Reed ordered. The sound that filled the command center was unlike anything they had heard before, part machine, part organic, layered with frequencies that made the Kalari cover their ears in pain. But beneath the noise, Reed heard something. Words, distorted, broken, but unmistakable. Human. You. Not. Prey. Reed's eyes widened. They know what we are. Nix stared at him. What does this mean, Captain? Reed's face hardened. It means we've confirmed something important. He touched his communicator again. Ward, the Scourge have encountered humans before, and for some reason, they fear us. For the first time in 3 decades, a hunter ship retreated from Kaluri space without taking a single victim. Reed paced the length of the meeting room where the Kaluri leaders had gathered. The space was underground, walls reinforced with metals mined from their moon. Maps and diagrams covered one wall, 30 years of tracking hunter movements and attacks. They've never retreated before, said Tav, the young sensor operator. Never. Not once in all our records. And they've never tried to communicate, added Nix, who sat at the head of the long table. Why now? Why with humans? Reed stopped pacing and placed his hands on the table. I think I know why. The Vigilant isn't just any warship. It's a prototype. We've been developing weapons specifically designed to fight the scourge. The room fell silent as the Kalari processed this information. 3 years ago, Reed continued, a human research outpost near Earth was attacked. The scourge took 53 people, left no survivors at the station. But they didn't know one thing. We had hidden cameras that recorded everything. Reed activated his portable projector. The hologram showed grainy footage of black ships, similar to the Hunters, attacking a space station. The Kalari watched with grim familiarity as strange creatures emerged from the ships. We saw what they did to our people, Reed said, his voice tight. And we started building ships to fight back. The Vigilant is the first. Its hull contains materials that disrupt their scanning technology. Our weapons target the specific frequency their ships operate on. If you have such weapons, asked one of the Kalari leaders, why send just one ship? Reed's expression darkened. Because I wasn't supposed to be here. High Command doesn't believe the scourge is a serious threat. They think the attack on our outpost was isolated. Understanding dawned on Nix's face. You came against orders. Reed nodded once. I followed evidence that pointed to this system. I had to see for myself. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded. Tav rushed to a nearby console. The Hunter ship. It's changing course again, he reported. It's heading toward Colony 2 on the second planet. Reed hit his communicator. Ward, do you have eyes on the Scourge vessel? Affirmative, Captain. It's moving toward the inner system. Should we pursue? Reed looked at Nix. How many people at Colony 2? Nearly 3,000, Nix answered, already rising from his seat. Our largest remaining settlement besides this one. Ward, plot an intercept course, Reed ordered. Full speed. We need to beat them there. The Kalari watched in amazement as Reed quickly organized a plan. For decades, they had been helpless against the Hunters. Now this human was treating them like an enemy that could be fought. I need to return to my ship, Reed told Nix. But I want one of your people with me. Someone who knows how the Hunters attack, who can recognize their patterns. Nix nodded. Ren will go. She was a defense coordinator before Colony 3 fell. The young female Kalari stepped forward, her expression determined. I have watched them kill my people for too long. I will help you fight them. As they prepared to leave, Reed noticed something changing in the Kalari around him. The constant fear in their eyes was giving way to something else, a spark of defiance, of hope. On the surface, Reed's shuttle waited. As he and Ren boarded, Nix approached. Captain Reed, the elder said, if you truly mean to fight the Hunters, you should know. We have been building weapons too. Not as advanced as yours, but we have not been idle in our suffering. Reed smiled for the first time since arriving. Then get them ready, Elder Nix, because before this is over, we're going to need them all. The shuttle lifted off, racing to rendezvous with the Vigilant. Behind them, the Kalari began opening hidden bunkers containing weapons they had built but never dared to use. The hunt had begun. But this time, the Hunters were also being hunted. The bridge of the CSS Vigilant hummed with tense energy as Reed and Ren arrived. Human crew members glanced curiously at the Kalari woman, but quickly returned to their stations. There was no time for introductions. Status report, Reed demanded, taking his command chair. We've matched course with the Scourge vessel, Ward answered. ETA to Colony 2 is 17 minutes. We're running slightly ahead of them. Reed nodded. Good. Weapons status. Primary systems charged and ready, reported the tactical officer. Experimental phase cannons at 90%. Ren stood at the edge of the bridge, taking in the human technology with wide eyes. The Kalari had once possessed ships, but nothing like this. Sleek, powerful, built for war rather than survival. Ren, Reed called, gesturing her forward. I need your eyes. You know these creatures better than we do. She moved to stand beside the captain's chair, studying the main view screen where the Hunter ship was visible as a dark blot against the stars. They always follow the same pattern. she explained, her voice steadied despite her surroundings. They target population centers. The main ship stays in orbit. Smaller vessels, gatherers, descend to the surface. They're fast, almost impossible to hit. Reed nodded. We've observed similar tactics. How do they choose their victims? Wren's face darkened. We don't know. They seem to examine people somehow. Some are taken, some left behind. But they never take children younger than 10 cycles or adults older than 60. They're selective, Ward observed. That suggests purpose, not just random predation. Reed turned to his science officer. Any progress decoding their communication attempt? Partial, Captain. The officer replied. It's a complex language, if it even is a language. Multiple layers of meaning in each sound, but we've confirmed they recognized us as human, and that recognition triggered their retreat. Approaching Colony 2, sir, announced the helm officer. On the view screen, a small blue-tinged planet grew larger. Colony 2 was smaller than the Kolari homeworld, its atmosphere thinner. Surface scans showed scattered settlements, mostly underground. Standard orbit, Reed ordered, and open a channel to the colony. A moment later, a frightened Kolari face appeared on screen. This is Colony 2. Ho! This is Captain Reed of the CSS Vigilant. A hunter ship is approaching your world. We're here to intercept it. Begin your emergency protocols now. The Kolari's eyes widened in shock. You're fighting the hunters? Yes, Reed said simply. Get your people to safety. As the communication ended, sensors blared a warning. Scourge vessel accelerating, Captain, reported the tactical officer. They've spotted us. Reed turned to Wren. Will they still attack with us here? She nodded grimly. They always attack. They fear nothing. We'll see about that, Reed said, rising from his chair. Battle stations. Shields at maximum. Target their propulsion systems first. The crew moved with practiced efficiency as the ship readied for combat. Reed stood in the center of the bridge, his posture rigid but calm. Sir, Ward said quietly, standard protocol would be to hold position between the Scourge and the planet. Reed shook his head. Not this time. Helm, take us directly at them. Full speed. Surprise rippled through the bridge, but the order was obeyed. The Vigilant surged forward, directly toward the approaching hunter ship. Wren gripped a nearby console, her voice tense. What are you doing? Speaking their language, Reed answered, eyes fixed on the view screen. They've been the predator for too long. Time they learned what it feels like to be prey. The hunter ship grew rapidly on the screen, its black surface seeming to absorb the starlight around it. For a moment, it continued its approach. Then, unexpectedly, it veered away. They're changing course, the tactical officer announced, surprise evident in his voice. Reed smiled grimly. They understand. Good. Helm, stay with them. Weapons, target their aft section. The Vigilant turned sharply, pursuing the hunter ship as it fled. For the first time in living Kolari memory, a hunter was running away. Fire, Reed ordered. The phase cannons released brilliant beams of energy that struck the hunter ship's rear section. Its surface rippled like disturbed water, but held. Again, Reed commanded, all weapons. As the Vigilant unleashed its arsenal, Reed turned to Wren. Her eyes were wide, filled with an emotion no Kolari had felt in generations. Hope. The hunter ship twisted through space, moving with unnatural grace for something so large. The Vigilant followed, weapons firing in precise bursts. Each hit sent ripples across the hunter's black surface, but the damage seemed minimal. Their hull is absorbing most of our energy weapons, reported the tactical officer. Effectiveness dropping below 30%. Reed's eyes narrowed. Switch to kinetic projectiles. Full spread. The Vigilant shuddered as it launched a barrage of physical projectiles, specially designed missiles that carried no explosive payload, just dense cores of metal moving at incredible speeds. When they struck the hunter ship, the effect was immediate. The black surface didn't just ripple, it tore. Dark fluid leaked into space, freezing instantly in the vacuum. "They're bleeding," Wren whispered, leaning forward in shock. "The ship is alive," Ward asked, turning to look at the Kolari woman. Wren nodded slowly. "We suspected. Their vessels moved too naturally to be machines, but we never got close enough to confirm it." Reed processed this information quickly. "Target the damaged areas again. Same weapons." The tactical officer obeyed, and more projectiles slammed into the wounded sections of the hunter ship. Its movements became less fluid, more erratic. Suddenly, the ship stopped fleeing. It turned, facing the Vigilant directly. "Evasive maneuvers," Reed shouted, but he was too late. A beam of intense, sickly green energy shot from the hunter ship, striking the Vigilant's port side. The human warship shuddered violently as alarms blared across the bridge. "Shields down to 40%, Ward reported. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4. Emergency containment active." Before Reed could respond, the hunter fired again. This time, the beam wasn't aimed at the ship's systems. It targeted the bridge directly. The view screen cracked as the energy washed over it. Several crew members cried out, clutching their heads as if in sudden pain. "What's happening?" Reed demanded, feeling a strange pressure building behind his eyes. "It's how they communicate," Wren gasped, her hands pressed against her temples. "They're in our minds." Images flashed through Reed's consciousness, strange worlds, stars he'd never seen, creatures both beautiful and terrible. And beneath it all, a message, not in words, but in pure meaning. Asterisk leave. Not yours. Our harvest asterisk. Reed fought through the mental assault. "Fire everything we have. Now." The Vigilant's remaining weapons systems activated at once, unleashing a desperate barrage at the hunter ship. One lucky hit struck what appeared to be a vital spot. The green beam sputtered and died. Reed staggered to his feet, his head still pounding. "Status report." "We're hurt bad, sir," Ward answered, blood trickling from her nose. "Life support compromised on 2 decks. Weapons at 60% capacity." "And the hunter?" "Damaged but operational. Sir, it's sending out a signal. Very powerful, on frequencies we've never recorded before." Reed turned to Wren. "What does that mean?" Her face had gone pale. "They're calling for help." Space around them seemed to bend as 5 more hunter ships appeared, emerging from what looked like tiers in reality itself. Each was as large as the first, their black surfaces perfect and unmarked. "Captain," Ward said quietly, "we can't fight them all." Reed stared at the new arrivals, his mind racing. The Vigilant was damaged, outnumbered, with no reinforcements coming. By all logic, they should retreat. But retreat meant abandoning Colony 2. It meant leaving the Kolari to face 6 hunter ships instead of 1. "Sir, awaiting your orders," prompted the tactical officer. Reed took a deep breath. "Target the damaged hunter. Concentrate all remaining firepower. We need to show the others that they can bleed." Before the order could be carried out, an alarm sounded from the communication station. "Captain, we're receiving signals from the surface." "The colony?" Reed asked. "No, sir." The communications officer looked up in disbelief. "It's from all over the planet. Kolari ships, dozens of them. They're launching." On the view screen, small crafts rose from the surface of Colony 2, mining vessels, shuttles, ancient fighters that looked barely spaceworthy. But they came, forming a ragged line between the Vigilant and the hunter ships. A transmission cut through the chaos. "Human vessel, this is Colony 2 Defense Force. We will fight with you." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Reed smiled, a fierce, determined expression. "All weapons ready," he ordered. "Let's show these hunters what happens when prey decides to bite back." The space around Colony 2 became a storm of light and shadow. The damaged hunter ship moved to the center of the hunter formation, protected by its 5 companions. The Kalari vessels, a patchwork fleet of mining ships, ancient fighters, and hastily armed transports, arranged themselves in a loose defensive screen around the wounded Vigilant. Colony 2 Defense Force, this is Captain Reed. Reed transmitted. Target the damaged hunter. Aim for the tiers in its hull. Understood, Captain, came the reply. We have followed your battle. We know where to strike. Reed turned to his tactical officer. How many missiles do we have left? 7, sir. All systems are operational, but our energy reserves are critical. Reed nodded. Make them count. Target the propulsion systems. Wren stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the view screen. Captain, they're changing formation. The 6 hunter ships moved with eerie coordination, forming a perfect hexagon. At the center, energy began to build, a swirling vortex of that same sickly green light. What are they doing? Ward asked. Wren's voice trembled. We've never seen this before. Multiple hunters have never attacked together. The vortex grew, energy arcing between the 6 ships. The Kalari fleet held position, but their communications revealed growing fear. Reed studied the formation, his mind racing. Then he saw it, the pattern in the energy flows, the connections between ships. They're linked, he said suddenly. The damaged one can't flee or fight on its own. The others are supporting it. He turned to his weapons officer. If we break the formation, separate the wounded one, we might have a chance. Reed opened a channel to the Kalari fleet. All ships, new plan. Don't attack the damaged hunter. Target these coordinates instead. He transmitted locations at specific points between the hunter ships, where the energy connections seemed strongest. The Kalari acknowledged, though doubt was clear in their voices. Fighting the hunters at all was new. Fighting them with strategy rather than desperation was revolutionary. Helm, take us in. Full speed. We're going straight through their formation. The bridge crew exchanged shocked glances, but no one questioned the order. The Vigilant's engines roared to life, driving the damaged warship directly toward the center of the hunter hexagon. All Kalari vessels, Reed broadcast, attack on my mark. Then scatter. Don't maintain a fixed position. The Vigilant accelerated, bearing down on the hunter formation. The green vortex grew brighter, pulsing with deadly energy. Now, Reed shouted. The Vigilant fired its remaining missiles in a precise pattern, targeting the energy connections between hunter ships. Simultaneously, the Kalari fleet attacked from multiple angles, their smaller weapons concentrating fire exactly where Reed had indicated. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, abruptly, the green vortex destabilized. Energy lashed out wildly, striking 2 of the hunter ships. The formation broke, ships scattering to avoid the backlash of their own weapon. There. Reed pointed at the view screen. The damaged one. It's vulnerable. Separated from its protectors, the wounded hunter ship drifted, its movements sluggish. The Vigilant plunged toward it, weapon systems locked on. All power to forward cannons, Reed ordered. Everything we have left. The Vigilant's remaining energy reserves channeled into one massive burst. The shot struck the hunter ship's wounded area, tearing through the living hull and deep into its core. What happened next stunned everyone watching. The hunter ship didn't simply explode, it screamed. A piercing cry echoed across all communication channels, a sound of pain that needed no translation. The 5 remaining hunter ships stopped attacking. They moved toward their dying companion, surrounding it in what almost looked like a protective circle. Then, as one, they began to retreat. They're leaving, Wren said, disbelief in her voice. They're actually leaving. On the colony below, Kalari emerged from their bunkers, watching the sky as the hunter ships vanished into the darkness of space. For the first time in 30 years, they had fought back. And won. 1 week later, Reed stood with Nix and the leaders of all 3 Kalari colonies. Around them, human engineers worked alongside Kalari technicians, installing defensive systems based on the Vigilance technology. Our long-range sensors show no hunter activity in the system, Nix reported. Nothing for 7 days. Reed nodded. They'll be back eventually, but not soon, and not unprepared for resistance. Why did you really come, Captain? Asked one of the Colony 2 leaders. One ship, against an enemy your own people don't believe exists. Reed looked up at the sky, where the repaired Vigilant orbited alongside a growing Kolari defense fleet. Because someone had to show them that the darkness should fear the light, he answered. And someone had to show you that you weren't alone. That night, for the first time in 3 decades, Kolari children played outside after sunset, looking up at the stars not with fear, but with wonder. The terror that had ruled their lives had not vanished forever, but it had retreated before something stronger: hope, courage, and the knowledge that even the most fearsome predator could be fought. And in the deep black of space, a message traveled back to Earth on the Vigilant's secure channel. Found survivors. Made allies. The scourge can be defeated. Send the fleet.